Season 7 of Black Mirror has recently been released, and before it landed on our screens, I was skeptical. Skeptical because the past 2 seasons that we had of one of my favourite shows had been below par, and it hadn't even really showed glimpses of the thought-provoking piece of art that was birthed in 2011 that provided an interesting and original look on society with technology at the heart of it whilst the main character reached their demise. I felt like this season was make or break for the future of the show, and before it was released I dropped a video saying how I felt like it could be saved with this season, and I think it's safe to say that it most definitely did that. So with that, I want to discuss how this season saved the show and why it's so important that it did. So let's get into it. Here is why Season 7 saved Black Mirror. The de-Hollywoodization of the episodes. I know what you're thinking. How is this season a de-Hollywoodization of the show when the likes of Kristen Milioti, Jesse Plemons, Jimmy Simpson, Rashida Jones, Emma Corrin, Will Poulter, and Paul Giamatti were in it? Well, when looking at the direction that Black Mirror took the show in during Season 5 and 6, which is arguably when its downfall began and the dark era came upon us, casting the likes of Miley Cyrus, arguably one of the biggest names on the planet at the time, was what cemented the route that Black Mirror took in leaning into Hollywood and using the size of the name rather than the quality of performer. Whereas when looking at this season, for example, yeah, they've gone for relatively big names, but if you take the likes of Rashida Jones, Chris O'Dowd, Will Poulter, and Paul Giamatti, they are true established actors that are known for their convincing performances. The casting this time round showed that by getting quality actors instead of just large names, you get stronger performances and much better episodes overall. This is because the actors work better with the material that they're given. Plus, I think the audience respect it more too, because when larger names get chosen for shows like this, it often feels like the platform does it because they feel like that would be the pull to get us to watch it, when in reality it's the complete opposite. This show is all about the story, not the performer, hence why it worked so well in the past when they'd cast up-and-comers rather than household names. To be honest, I've never really had that much of an issue with them casting relatively big names in the past, in the sense that Bryce Dallas Howard was at the heart of one of my favourite episodes ever released. And also many other actors from Season 1 and Season 2, which I define as the bread and butter of the show, have gone on to have great success. But the key difference back then with the first 2 seasons was that these names weren't established like they are in today's game. Daniel Kaluuya was an up-and-comer, Toby Kebbell wasn't as famous as he is now, and the same for Jodie Whittaker. Even Hayley Atwell and Domhnall Gleeson, they were in the midst of building their career, and Black Mirror was a great parachute and platform for them to go on to have even greater success. There were exceptions, don't get me wrong, with the likes of Jon Hamm and Rafe Spall, but it wasn't overbearing and in every episode. So this time round, even though the show didn't go for complete up-and-comers and still got extremely famous actors in to play the roles, they went with quality over the size of the name and didn't give them the Hollywood treatment, which I think made a massive difference to the way that we perceived the characters that were in the episodes. We saw them as who they were playing, not who they were on the outside. The powerful, intimate stories. That gut-punching feeling that you get at the end of a Black Mirror episode is something that has become eponymous, as I now call it that Black Mirror feeling. Throughout the history of the show, it's been present, especially in the early days. For example, in the entire history of You, when Liam was looking through his memories of Fee and he had to tear out the grain because he couldn't handle it anymore. In Be Right Back, when Martha let out that gut-wrenching scream at the top of a cliff because she didn't know how to feel about the synth that mirrored her dead boyfriend. And also Bing's speech during 15 Million Merits. They're all incredible moments that hit you hard, and the pacing of the episode, the rhythm that it has, and the structure of the story allows you to know that that moment would be on the horizon, but still, it would get you every single time. However, throughout Season 5 and Season 6 of the show, that feeling just seemed to be vacant, and instead of being left staring at the black screen in front of me, questioning what I'd just watched because it was so thought-provoking and powerful, instead, I was just sitting there questioning what I just watched because it didn't feel like Black Mirror. Many episodes in Season 7 resembled what we had in the past, and the likes of Eulogy and Common People were the closest things that we had to episodes from Season 1 and Season 2 in such a long time. I genuinely think that's the highest compliment that you can pay to an episode of this show, because that's when the show was at its best. There wasn't a piece of technology within this season that felt out of place, like it lacked inspiration or wasn't creative. Redream, Rivermind, Thronglitz, The Pendant, and Eulogy. They all made sense and made you question as a viewer how you'd feel with that being within our society. The only one that I probably didn't like that much was the pendant in Bete Noire, because there wasn't much explanation behind it. I'd also say that this season of the show had an overarching theme which was clear to see as well, and even though Black Mirror is an anthology, having a core theme that connects all of the stories is something that does provide a sense of structure and make the overarching message a lot more powerful. For example, there was a key theme about artificial life and the value of it, and also how humans value all other life forms below them and see themselves as gods, even over their own kind. For example, we had that in Hotel Reverie, Thrunglitz, USS Callister, and even Bete Noire 2, so we were made to feel that message amongst all of them. I'd also say the relevance of the meaning of the episodes, such as in Common People, with the focus on increasing subscription prices, paying for more and ending up with less, felt like it was so relatable and was applicable to many different industries. And also the feeling of dread, regret, and wasting your life feeling a certain way towards an ex-partner when you didn't need to feel it at all was something that people could also connect to. There was a real relatability about these episodes, and when Black Mirror has something to say and it uses its stories to say it, and it does it well, that's when it can be at its best, which is what we saw in Season 7. The stories return to true form, and rather than focusing solely on the interesting tech, which Black Mirror has almost become synonymous for now, it focused on giving us the stories that actually had weight and meaning. The risk-taking. One thing that I thought was brave of Black Mirror to do in this season was essentially create 2 sequels. This was something that I wasn't really that optimistic about before going into the season, but the 2 episodes that featured recurring characters actually turned out to be really strong. Black Mirror hasn't really delved into the sequel territory before. It had Black Museum, which was an episode that was littered with Easter eggs, but that was the farthest it went with showing us a connected universe. However, in creating a sequel to USS Callister where the story picked up right after the end of the Season 4 episode, that sense of familiarity and the action-filled, tension-filled nature of it, with Walton being the new villain and Robert Daly being a villain in a different sense, with an ending that was also optimistic but so bleak too, it actually ended up topping the first installment. I also think the same with Thrunglitz, having the pre-existing world of Bandersnatch, seeing Tuckersoft before, and also the likes of Colin Rickman returning. It just added a good element of history to the episode and a backdrop to the environment that we once entered. I thought it was risky of Black Mirror to do that, but I think it definitely paid off. Brooker used that sense of familiarity to give us 2 brand new stories, and it worked so well. My conclusion. Honestly, after watching this season, I genuinely feel like the show is back. This was the best installment that Black Mirror has given us since 2017 when Season 4 was released. It's crazy, isn't it? It took 8 years for the show to return to its true form. There wasn't a bad episode of Season 7, and the fact that there wasn't showed that the juices were flowing inside of Brooker's brain, as it genuinely felt like there was only the occasional good episode in the past 8 years. Whilst I think the modern era of Black Mirror will always struggle to hold up when compared to the likes of Season 1 and Season 2, and with 8 years of darkness, it even feels like Season 3 and 4 sit on their own and have that sense of nostalgia now. But if this is the direction that the show is going to go in, then I'm fully on board with it continuing. As I said before, Black Mirror is a show that thrives when there's something to say about society, so it can't be pushed like many of Netflix's other shows. With the rise of artificial intelligence and also the change in the way that we pay for things with subscription models, Black Mirror was able to utilize that to its advantage. So I hope Netflix have learned that they should genuinely only release this show as and when, and not give it that formulaic structure like it does to all of its other shows. I think it's definitely safe to say that after Season 7, Black Mirror is most definitely back. So, there you have it, why Season 7 saved Black Mirror. If you want to see every episode of Black Mirror Season 7 being broken down, then I've put the playlist below. Also, if you want to see every episode of Black Mirror from Season 1 to Season 7 being ranked, then I've put that video there as well. Do you think Season 7 saved the show? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.